Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I have got the all-new On Roger Pro Fire, and I gotta say, On has got some of y'all in an absolute stranglehold with these shoes. Any video I do, doesn't matter if it's tennis, pickleball, basketball, volleyball, right, generic, doesn't matter. I could do a video about the history of the Wild West, and I'll get somebody asking me to review some obscure basketball shoe. I'll get people asking me to review these random pickleball shoes, but never tennis shoes. I never ever request for tennis shoes, except for one, and that is On. I talked to Tennis Warehouse, I asked them to get me a pair of these, they wouldn't, because they're selling out so fast. Like, hey, sorry. Now, I asked On, hey, can I get a review unit? No, we don't even give review units out. We just don't care. They said, we don't even care. That's how fast these sell. Nobody is worried about selling On Roger Pro shoes, the court shoes, those half hybrid, lifestyle plus. You go to Disney and everyone's in On. Literally every person on this planet is wearing an On shoe. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I love Roger Federer so much. 100%. I don't get the allure. I just don't get it. There are some great things about these shoes. We will talk about them, but I had to get that off my chest. I don't understand how these shoes have you all in such a stranglehold, especially from my perspective. So let's get into the uppers. Like I said, there are some great things about these. Yeah. Anyway, getting into the uppers, starting in the tongue, actually pretty beefy pods here in the proximal portion of the tongue. It is not a very long tongue, right? Like it does, I think it kind of needs to come up a little bit more in terms of the padding, because you do get cuffed lace eyelets underneath. Okay, and that's for sliding. That's great. So you got a little protector there for sliding. This is just like the Vapor Pro 2 and Vapor Pro 3. And then on the lateral side, you've got an actual runner's knot, and that comes through. Now, if you don't use the runner's knot on this, heel slippage is moderate. I didn't notice it as much as I thought I would. Like when I actually had them on court, like I did not notice it as much. But if you use the runner's knot, it's mild. You still have a little bit, it is mild. And that's because in the rear foot, like the padding is just really kind of just pedestrian, right? There's not much there. It's a pretty basic padded shoe for the amount of money you're paying for these. And the heel counter, you get external as well as internal, super stable. That is gonna be a theme of these shoes. Stable, sure-footed. It starts in the heel counter. It's incredible up there what that does. Now, as you go into the rest of the shoe, you do get kind of a TPU, almost like wing-like structure that comes down. And it's really nice because it fans out on the medial side. And so it does take a minute to break this in here, but when it does, it's actually very comfortable. Like there is no irritation. There is some bending and snapping for a minute, but then nothing. And then on the other side, you get a TPU and textile weave. Look at the microscope. It looks really pretty and it functions really, really well. Look at this thing on the breathability test. And yes, fog does get out of the forefoot. And as you can see here, let's take a break from the breathability test. You can see the holes here, right? Like the egress points. And that's the places that you see fog get through. The rest of it is solid backing into there. So fog's not gonna get anywhere out of there. But then as well as the tongue, it does start perforating the tongue under here. It's really hard to see on the overhead cam just because it's so dark. But you do get egress from there. So these aren't the worst breathing shoes out there, given all the material, given how much there is up here. You get TPU around the toe box too. So in terms of the uppers, lace irritation, mild. It gets better as the shoe breaks in. Like I said, it would be better if the tongue went up higher. And you do get this little elastic band here in the forefoot, a la something like Asics. Like I said, the lockdown, it's decent. The containment is outstanding. Comfort it's better than you would think it was gonna be for a shoe, like I said, this kind of industrial. But yeah, all in all, I think the name of the game in the uppers, containment. All right, but getting into the midsole teardown, honestly, it's an improvement on the Roger Pro shoes. You do get a slab of Helion, which is that much less dense EVA and has OBCs. And you can kind of see on the microscope, a little bit more plasticky on top, right? It just looks a little bit different on top versus the bottom. And it is softer on top versus the bottom. That bottom is that same like brick-like EVA foam. The thing is though, is that slab is not thick. I mean, it can't be that thick, right? Or you'd be up in the stratosphere, but to me, I still felt like it was pretty hard underfoot. Like I feel, mainly what I feel is the carrier EVA, and then in the forefoot, you don't get anything. It is that same, just super unforgiving slab of EVA. Look at this thing on the balance height test. You get 34 centimeters in the rear foot. That's mostly the influence of the Helion. And then the forefoot, 26 centimeters. That's kind of what we're used to seeing with these on-court foams, right? They're just super dead, right? They're very stable and they're very sure-footed. 100%, I'll give you that. They are sure-footed, but it is just, it's dense under there. It's kind of dead feeling under there too. And then you do get a bottom-loaded shank. It does kind of fan out here. And on the lateral side, it does fan out into the lateral flange, and it reinforces that lateral flange, which is out of this world. That is fantastic. I absolutely love that in terms of this shoe being incredible. Still, if that's that word I'm talking, sure-footedness. It's crazy how this kind of reinforces that lateral flange and how good it does feel in terms of side to side. It's just that, yeah, I mean, also you look at it on the tensiometer, it takes 71 newtons, right, too. So I mean, that just shows you like how board-like that foam is. You know, you do get thick rubber underneath it, but it's a little bit of that shank, right, because it kind of comes into that forefoot. So that's kind of right where it's bending. So the shank is also creating some of that resistance to bending on the lateral side. It kind of just becomes a lateral stabilizer or a wing at that point. But you get a little bit of influence that, but most of that influence is just how board-like that foam is. Thing is though, is like, yeah, in the rear foot, it's gonna be a little bit more accommodating for you with a little bit more of that Helion, but in the forefoot, it's still gonna feel pretty unforgiving under there. So just kind of, you know, watch out for that. You're gonna need to augment, right? And we'll talk about it in the fit section, but in terms of anybody in the forefoot, I would for sure be augmenting this. All right, but getting into the outsole tread, it basically is just a really wide set, kind of like almost like a delta pattern here, but it's supposed to be a really wide herringbone, but it kind of just basically makes a big delta pattern, and then that runs into the rear foot. As you it gets a lot more dense here in the rear foot. This is decoupled tread, and for decoupled tread, still incredibly sure-footed. You do get on the medial side, you get like some micro gridding on there, and then, you know, not a little bit on the lateral side, but mostly on the medial side, then it's flat here in the middle. But that micro texture is fantastic. I mean, if you're pushing off from the side, it's awesome. The problem is, if you drag, you're gonna drag this through. The durometer, though, does come in at 25. It is super hard rubber, outsole durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. Basically, it just cleans it off. That's really all it does. But you are gonna lose that if you're someone that drags a lot. If you don't, you might get a lot of wear. You might get a lot of use off that push-off power that I do really like. That's a nice little touch there. For decoupled tread, this probably is one of the more stable shoes you will get out there. If you look at this thing, I should have done this in the midsole section, but in terms of like, look at this. I mean, that is just, it's not flexing much. In terms of, you know, torsional stability, it's got it in spades. It does bend also appropriately up here, as you can see. So yeah, once again, in terms of durability and sure-footedness, I think the outsole tread definitely passes that test. All right, let's talk some fit of the fires here. Number one, they only have a 9-degree inflare from rear foot to forefoot, which is pretty mellow. 28.7 centimeters in length, which is a hair short, but not bad. I actually kind of like that, because then you can start going up in sizes, or up in half sizes. Then this is where things kind of start to go off the rails. They do have 9.7 centimeters of metatarsal width. They're not cramped in the metatarsals. Only 9.5 at toe box. You lose 2 centimeters into the toe box. You can kind of see the taper in there. I mean, it's getting up there. It's definitely tapered. That's kind of the weird part of these. And then only a 36-degree taper once you get into the actual toe box. You're losing the width from the metatarsals to the toe box. Once you actually get into the toe box to the end of the shoe, it's not bad. It's a weird shaped shoe for sure. So remember, these are also 16 ounces for a men's size 11. It's a heavy shoe. So in terms of narrow medium foot, I think you go true to size, right? In terms of a 2E, I'd be going true to size on these. I broke these in really nicely. I didn't have any problems with this plastic. I thought for sure I would. Actually, it doesn't feel bad at all. And like I said, the mesh and the TPU does breaking really well. It's just, you start going up sizes on this thing, and it's gonna start to get heavier and heavier and heavier. I mean, 2E, you can go up a half size. A 4E, you probably do have to go up a half size as a 4E, but it just might be, in terms of weight and heel slippage, might just be a mismatch for you. So like I said, this is more of that narrow medium and 2E if you're feeling lucky. type shoe. In terms of the snake bitten foot though, remember 16 ounces for men's size limbs. They're heavy and brick-like, you know, in the forefoot. I'd say for heel pain, if you can get a low profile orthotic in there, probably has got to be something custom or an over-the-counter that has really, really forgiving foam. Like think more like Power Step Bridge versus like a Pinnacle or something like that, because you know, or like a stiff custom. If you have a custom, it should have what's called quote unquote hole in heel, where pour-on is in the heel. You're gonna have to have something that can augment this, and then you gotta have something in the forefoot, right? That's why I say like that Power Step Bridge foam in the forefoot, or a custom with a really nice slab like neoprene and pour-on in the forefoot. I mean, you got this. This is just not gonna fly, right? Over a lot of playing time, right? Especially once you start wearing this shoe down. So these have to be augmented with a low profile orthotic, and you can't get a bulkier orthotic in here. I mean, try to put a Pinnacle on this thing. I mean, it's like heel slip central in here. And it's just gonna be, the volume in the forefoot is nothing, right? I mean, it's almost like that K-Swiss Hypercourt Pinnacle, right? You know, the volume is just not there in the forefoot. It's gotta be a lower profile situation. You honestly also could just put a metatarsal pad under here to offload the forefoot. Some people are gonna be able to tolerate that. Some people are not gonna be able to tolerate that, but you know, a piece of foam, I actually have one cut in this configuration just in there. Something like that, you want to check out how to do that, you can check out my ebook. I have all these customizations you can put in there. It's Black Friday pricing right now actually too, so you can learn how to augment this too. But in terms of the snake bitten foot, really the only ailment I like these for, and I do think they might be the shoe of the year for, is ankle sprainers. Like this shoe is so hard to roll for the low profile nature of it. It is super heavy. I mean, it is bottom heavy, right? So it's bottom stable, it's sure footed, but I have a hard time thinking of a better shoe for an ankle sprainer, maybe like Tornio 3, you know, kind of that category. But this is, yeah, I mean, if that's your only concern, you don't care about other stuff, or you can augment it, you don't mind augmenting it, and you're just like, I just don't want to sprain my ankle. Okay, there you go. It is then worth the money. Everything else though, I think you're paying for this right here. That's what I think you're paying for. I hope that in the future we get more from On, you know, more innovation, more everything from On in terms of these shoes, because to me, On is how we get tennis sneakers more mainstream, right? And how we get them more popular. I know that people are paying attention to this company, and I just hope we get more so that more people, you know, I just hope, you know, right, what am I trying to say? A rising tide lifts all boats. And if these stay as popular as they are, but also meet the moment in terms of the technology, the comfort, things like that, then I think it's gonna make people look at more tennis shoes and more brands and just bring more attention to the space. And so that's my hope. And yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna leave this video. I have hope for the future. And if you're an ankle sprainer, yeah, get these shoes, they're great. So, and I know I'm gonna get somebody commenting, X Pro wears this shoe, so it has to be good. What are you talking about? If you wanna see my explanation for that, click into this video right here. It gives a really big detailed breakdown of that, including a lot of examples in the tennis space. So make sure you click into this video up above, check out the shoe customization guide down below on Black Friday pricing. See you in the next video.